Hey Explorer, are you ready for another enlightening journey into the complex world of attention deficit hyperactive disorder, or ADHD? Now, close your eyes and envision ADHD. What images spring to your mind? Perhaps a hyper-energetic little boy bouncing off the walls? You're not alone. For years, ADHD has been stereotyped as a naughty boy syndrome, mainly seen as a disorder affecting males. But did you know that ADHD doesn't discriminate based on gender? It doesn't only affect hyperactive boys or highly impulsive men. It also casts its shadow over the lives of bright, dreamy girls and multitasking women in their 40s. Research indicates that 12.9% of boys and 5.6% of girls globally live with ADHD. Does that mean boys are more vulnerable than girls? Not exactly. Rather, this disparity in gender is due to consistent underdiagnosis and misdiagnosis of ADHD in girls. Despite similar prevalence rates between genders, diagnosis rates among males in America are 69% higher than among females. While boys are usually diagnosed in childhood, many girls with ADHD don't get diagnosed until adulthood. Here's a startling revelation. Between 2020 and 2022, ADHD diagnosis nearly doubled in women aged 30 to 49. Even more astonishing, women in their 70s are now being diagnosed with ADHD, shedding light on a long overlooked reality. This raises a compelling question. Why is ADHD so often go unnoticed in girls, leading to diagnoses often occurring later in life for adult women? Today, we're delving deep into the often overlooked world of ADHD in women, aiming to uncover answers to these pressing questions and shed light on the misconceptions and dire consequences faced by undiagnosed women. From the effect of hormonal fluctuations to the weight of stigma, shame, and misunderstood symptoms, here's what women want you to understand about what it's like to grow up and live with ADHD. Are you ready? Let's dive in. Firstly, let's dispel the ignorance surrounding ADHD and the struggles faced by undiagnosed women. Labeled as lost girls, drama queens, or daydreamers, behaviors typical of ADHD in women are brushed aside as mere anxiety or conduct issues. Teenage girls with hyperactivity and impulsivity behaviors are scornfully called chaotic tomboys, or their inattention symptoms are dismissed as scatterbrained rather than recognized as symptoms in need of immediate attention. To add insult to injury, society's response has been callous and dismissive. Instead of receiving the support they desperately need, they're told to act like a lady and stop daydreaming. But here's what many fail to grasp. For women with ADHD, getting distracted, daydreaming, and spacing out isn't a sign of disinterest. Instead, it requires significantly more cognitive effort to stay focused amidst a whirlwind of thoughts compared to neurotypical individuals. This injustice becomes even more glaring when we compare it to the recognition men receive for similar symptoms. One woman with ADHD shared her experience of having her daydreaming and internal restlessness during her early years brushed off as typical female behaviors, while boys or men displaying the same traits were promptly diagnosed with ADHD. It's an obvious double standard that's as unfair as it is damaging. Don't you agree? Even worse, the consequences of this oversight are dire. Undiagnosed women with ADHD are at a significantly higher risk than men for a range of serious health issues, including clinical mood disorders, self-harm, eating disorders, antisocial behavior, substance abuse, anxiety, and depression. Studies have shown that 36% of women with ADHD have generalized anxiety disorder, 31% have major depressive disorder, and 39% struggle with substance abuse at some point in their lives. Additionally, insomnia is more prevalent among women with ADHD, affecting 43.9% of them. That's quite a bit. And here's the most alarming fact. Women with ADHD are up to 8 times more likely to attempt suicide, according to the Canadian study in the Journal Archives of Suicide Research. This study underlines that women with ADHD are particularly vulnerable. But it doesn't stop there. ADHD deeply impacts their academic and professional achievements, often leading to school dropouts, low grades, social rejection, workplace challenges, plummeting self-esteem, and strained relationships. As one adult woman with ADHD aptly states, Being a woman with ADHD means constantly failing to meet societal and familial expectations and carrying the shame of those failures, something most men with ADHD don't have to consider. This underscores the urgent need to provide adequate mental health support throughout the lives of this vulnerable and neglected group. Wouldn't you agree? In light of the significant struggles faced by undiagnosed women, it's essential to explore why ADHD is often overlooked. Let's dissect 6 key reasons contributing to the underdiagnosis or misdiagnosis of ADHD in women. Number 1. Differences in ADHD presentation between men and women. ADHD often presents differently in girls compared to boys, making it trickier to recognize and diagnose. This can lead to the symptoms being overlooked or misinterpreted, delaying crucial intervention and support. Boys tend to show ADHD in more noticeable ways, like being hyperactive and impulsive. Think about that kid who can't stay in his seat or keeps interrupting the class. These behaviors are hard to miss, but girls, they're more likely to internalize their hyperactivity. They might feel restless or fidget a lot, but stay seated and quiet, so it's less obvious. As one woman with ADHD aptly puts it, our hyperactivity is internal, it's in our minds. You may see us sitting still, but our minds are never at rest. Moreover, girls often exhibit inattentive ADHD symptoms rather than hyperactivity, which can slip under the radar. Here's the breakdown of the unique ways ADHD manifests in girls. Forgetfulness. Misplacing keys or forgetting homework quite often isn't just absent-mindedness, it's a symptom of ADHD. Girls' minds are constantly racing with thoughts, making it challenging to stay focused on everyday tasks. Short attention span. Daydreaming during class isn't simply boredom, it's a manifestation of ADHD. Girls may struggle to maintain focus on important instructions or discussions, often drifting off into their imaginative worlds. Difficulty completing tasks. Starting projects with enthusiasm but getting sidetracked halfway through is a common struggle for girls with ADHD. It's not laziness, it's a challenge in sustaining attention and motivation. Being disorganized or messy. Their messy backpacks and workspaces aren't just a sign of chaos, they're a reflection of the organizational difficulties that they face. Papers strewn everywhere and forgotten assignments are telltale signs of their internal battle with ADHD. Internalized behaviors like self-blame. They're more likely to internalize their symptoms, blaming themselves for their difficulties. For instance, when a girl doesn't do well on a test, she might think she's not smart enough, rather than recognizing that her ADHD makes it hard for her to stay organized and focused. This self-criticism makes them feel isolated and sad. Emotional hyperreactivity. A girl with ADHD might have a disproportionate emotional reaction to a minor setback, such as receiving constructive criticism from a teacher. She might burst into tears or get defensive. This can strain her relationships and make her feel bad about herself. Number 2. Comorbidities can mask ADHD symptoms. Now, let's zoom in on another critical factor: comorbidities. ADHD shares a lot of symptoms with other mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. And more likely than not, when a woman is struggling with inattention, self-blame, or self-criticism, it might be blamed on anxiety or depression instead of ADHD. Number 3. Reporting bias of ADHD. Moving on, here's another significant reason for why girls and women get missed in the diagnosis of ADHD: the reporting bias. Diagnosing ADHD in childhood often relies on observations from various settings, such as school and home. Research suggests that parents and teachers tend to overrate ADHD symptoms in boys while underrating them in girls. As Dr. Lucrece Rupert, a psychiatrist diagnosed with ADHD during medical school, aptly notes, most girls aren't physically running around the classroom turning flips or doing things that get you noticed by the teacher. Unlike overt hyperactivity, traits like being messy, disorganized, or lacking focus may not immediately raise concerns for parents or teachers, especially if they get excellent grades. Consequently, if they fail to recognize a girl's symptoms, she may miss out on the necessary diagnosis and support she requires. Number 4. Societal bias. Here's another biggie to consider: the impact of societal bias. Society expects girls to be well-behaved and attentive. So when a girl struggles with attention or impulsivity, it might just be seen as her personality. For example, if a girl fidgets or talks too much, she might be labeled as overly chatty or disruptive instead of being evaluated for ADHD. Number 5. Masking and coping strategies. Now, let's shine a spotlight on the most crucial aspect: masking and coping strategies. This is a flow on from the societal bias, as many women and girls pick up on it from an early age. Neurodivergent girls with ADHD often slip through the cracks of diagnosis because they excel at developing ways to cope and mask their symptoms. They might appear super organized or actually be overachievers, but behind the scenes, it's a ton of work for them to keep up. For instance, a girl might spend hours on homework to compensate for her inattention in class. Combining this with hyperfocus, where they intensely concentrate on a single interest for hours, this can result in flashes of brilliance that further obscure their condition. However, the strain of coping mechanisms over time can take a toll on mental health, leading to conditions such as anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. While some may initially manage their symptoms, the challenges of significant life transitions such as college, career, or parenthood can overwhelm them, often resulting in diagnosis later in life. This contributes to near equal diagnostic ratio between women and men, which stands at 2:1. Number 6. Hormone fluctuations. Did you know that hormones and ADHD in women is intricately linked? Yep, you heard that right. Hormone fluctuations play a significant role in the manifestation of ADHD symptoms in women. Beginning at puberty, monthly hormonal changes bring about shifts in estrogen levels, which can impact dopamine activity and cognitive functioning positively post-menstruation. However, during the premenstrual phase, when estrogen levels drop, women often experience an exacerbation of ADHD symptoms alongside typical premenstrual changes. This includes heightened irritability and disruptions in mood, sleep, and concentration. For instance, consider a woman with ADHD who typically manages her tasks reasonably well. During the week leading up to her menstrual period, however, she might struggle with forgetfulness, misplacing important items like keys or phones, and difficulty concentrating on her tasks, while also feeling emotionally sensitive. This increases the amount of self-criticism and despondency she might feel. These observable symptoms can sometimes be misattributed solely to premenstrual dysphoric disorder, overlooking underlying ADHD. Additionally, during perimenopause, which typically begins around age 40 and lasts for about 10 years, declining estrogen levels can further intensify ADHD symptoms. This hormonal shift may contribute to why ADHD is often diagnosed in women in their 40s, as managing these symptoms becomes increasingly challenging. As you can see, this consistent oversight of ADHD in girls has profound implications, with symptoms persisting into adulthood. As Dr. Lisa McLean, MD, a psychiatrist at Henry Ford Health, aptly states, "You don't just develop ADHD as an adult, but many women realize and recognize it later in life," underscoring the urgent need for awareness and early intervention to support women on their ADHD journey. As our eye-opening journey into the world of ADHD comes to an end, let's not forget that every woman deserves to be seen, understood, and supported on their ADHD journey. Let's strive to be the change makers who bring this vision to life. Are you ready to make a difference? If you are keen to learn more about ADHD, check out our video that explains how ADHD affects executive function.